Hi. Thank you. You know, there's an old adage in show business that you never want to follow a pet, a dog, or a child. You also don't want to follow a sister. Good job. Great job. I want to thank my friend Ann Brown for asking me to come and talk to you this evening. I found out today that I'm an icon, and that just sort of really scares the shit out of me. But what I was trying to decide what kind of history I would talk to you about. My Christian name is Ron Zimmerman. My scene name, as people call it, is Master Z. My Buddhist name is Zen Kai. So what story should I tell you? The story that I think I will tell you is how all of it kind of combines and comes together, and how it came together in a beautiful community here in Dallas-Fort Worth called the Leather and BDSM community. I was born in Buffalo, New York. Try not to hold that against me. And I'm 66 years old, so you can figure back how long ago that was. And the family that I was raised in was what we call cradle-to-grave Catholics. I know exactly what that feels like. And in my family, it was always a destination of the oldest grandchild to be sort of committed to the church. And so from the earliest time, my parents, my grandparents, they were certain that I was going to be a priest. I went to Catholic grammar school, Catholic high school, Catholic university, and somewhere along the line I got caught by one of the Christian communities, Catholic communities, and went off to seminary. It was an ordered seminary, and by that I mean it was kind of one of the tough ones. You couldn't talk. You got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You did work. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of noise going on at night in the cells as well, so I learned some of my BDSM in the Catholic Church. I lasted for about 6 months, but they counseled me out. They said I didn't have the discipline to be an ordered priest, but I might make a good diocesan priest. So this was up in Newburgh, New York with the Oblates of Mary Immaculate. And I was coming home on the train back to Buffalo, and I knew my family was going to be very disappointed in me. There was going to be no Pope Ron. And when I got off the train, across the street from the train station was a motorcycle shop. I had a pocket full of money because families used to give what's called a stipend to the order. And since I wasn't staying, I got it back. And I looked and I thought, do I want to go home? Motorcycle shop. Do I want to go home? Motorcycle shop. So my memory says it was a Harley shop. It probably wasn't, but that makes the story sound good to me. And I walked across the street and I bought my first motorcycle and my first piece of leather. My family was shocked. They really didn't know what to do with me at that particular point in time. I had gone off the track. So I moved to New England and began working with emotionally disturbed children until I became emotionally disturbed myself and had to leave. I lived in a commune in Portland, Maine, and I rode with a motorcycle group called the Outlaws. If you're at all familiar with the Outlaws, they're sort of Hell's Angels light. If any of you are associated with that, please don't tell them I told you that because it could be death. I was not a queer at that time, and I use the word queer because that's how I feel as an individual in my sexuality. And I was a straight man. And I tell people this, I didn't come out until I was 32 years old, and people say, oh, well, that must have been a tough road for you. And I said, no, it really wasn't. I didn't think about guys. I really didn't. I was really happy being heterosexual, or at least I thought I was. So I got married, I had children, and but was living a hippie lifestyle, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, living in a commune up in Portland, Maine. And my wife at that time did not like the leather. She didn't at all, and she didn't like the commune life, so she said, we need to leave that. And so we did. I put the leather away. I discovered men, and I put the wife away. My first partner and I, Rick, we moved to Texas in 1986, and I was working for American Airlines at that time. I'm now retired from American Airlines. I was their director of security for I was with them for 33 years. So we moved here to Texas, and we were sort of the happy, gay, Ozzie and Harriet type, living that cocktails and watching Dallas and having Falcon Crest parties. Rick didn't like the leather either, and so it never came back out. Rick and I lived a monogamous life, and I began to realize very quickly that I was not meant to be monogamous. I don't think that's a natural state for most people, but that's just my opinion. Rick and I committed to monogamy. I tried being monogamous. We were together 14 years. And apparently one of us wasn't thinking in the terms of monogamy, because in the early times of AIDS, Rick was struck down with HIV. He didn't get a break. It was a time when there weren't a lot of drugs. There wasn't anything really to help him out. And so he, within 6 months, he was gone. There's something very there's a lot of growth in walking that road with somebody from one existence to the next. I did what many people do when they go through very serious change. I immediately got into another relationship. I think it was out of fear, maybe being a little scared that I might be HIV positive. It took me a year to get tested. I'm not. My next partner, David, who I was with 8 years, he was already had AIDS. People thought I was crazy. Why was I going through this a second time? I just needed somebody in my life, and I was an enabler. David was a functioning alcoholic and a drug user. I got to walk his final walk with him as well. And at the end of that time, with the second partner now gone, I was in the closet, not really, and I was cleaning out his clothes, and in the back of the closet was that leather jacket that I had bought back in Buffalo. And I could still smell it, and I could still feel the wonderful touch of leather, and I decided that I was going to be a leather man. The interesting thing was it also still fit. So I came to the Dallas Eagle to be a leather man, and I met some wonderful, wonderful people there who wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. I had diamond carat earrings, one in each ear, wore lots of bracelets and gold chains, and I had the best cologne. I really did. I had drawers full of cologne that was just great. And every time I would show up with the leather group, they would move away. So I did what any person would do that wants to join a group. I stalked them. Everywhere they were, I went as well. And finally, a gentleman by the name of Master Dean Walrot took pity on this silly man who was trying to join a group that he knew nothing about, other than he liked leather. And he took me aside and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want to be a leather man." And he said, "Well, we got some work to do. First of all, get rid of that freaking cologne. It's just not going to work." So he was not my real mentor, but I admired him very, very much. He owned Leather by Boots. And he introduced me to a great organization called National Leather Association of Dallas, which is one of the largest chapters in Dallas. I was not a BDSM person either. I went to my first dungeon party, and it scared the shit out of me. I walked around and watched people being whipped and spanked and paddled. This is not Shades of Grey by any stretch of the imagination. And I came away from that most certain that I was not a sadist. Today, people see me in a dungeon throwing a bullwhip or putting needles in people or flesh hooks, and they know that that statement that I am not a sadist is not true. I met another gentleman, another leatherman called Steve Cozen Sampson, and he had just won a title with his slave, and he was International Master 1999. And he has a Tom Sawyer-ish type thing. He gets you to paint the fence. And he said, "Sir, I think you should run for a title." And I said, "You're out of your mind." There was no way that I was going to stand up naked on a stage in a jock strap with all my stuff hanging out. And he said, "Oh, no, this is not what this title's about. It's a teaching title. You're going to teach about power exchange relationships and what they're all about." And I thought, oh, that's interesting because I know little about power exchange relationships. I had a slave boy And we had a fairly good relationship going. He was actually probably a better slave than I was a master. And lo and behold, we won. We became the International Master and Slave 2004. Thank you. We went all over the United States, Canada, teaching about power exchange relationships and what they're about. Little did I know that I didn't know a lot about it, but I certainly learned a lot. My idea of getting into BDSM and getting into leather was I was going to have lots of hot young men sitting at my boots, peeling grapes. You know, put the picture in your mind. And then the universe did something very strange for me. It introduced me to a female slave. Now I thought, this is quite interesting. What the hell am I going to do with this? It doesn't it doesn't have any of the parts I want. But it was such a wonderful, heartfelt, and spiritual relationship of someone who was willing to be owned, to give all to you for your responsibility of their life. And so I took that responsibility, and I've been in relationship with that woman, Slave Kiki, who's sitting back there. Raise your hand, Slave Kiki. Good slave. I've owned her for 8 years, and the universe now surprises me all the time. I have 3 women in my life, 3 straight women in my life. Thank you, universe. You're so good to me. I have a gay male slave who lives with me, so that's 4 slaves that I own. And I am now in a power exchange relationship with a boy in Ottawa, Canada. So people say, oh, how do you do all of that? And I say, well, it's kind of like UPS. It's logistics, logistics, logistics. I work for an airline. I have free travel, so I fly all over the country talking with them and spending time with them. My next goal here is I'm now moving into the world of Buddhism. And people say, how do you connect that with you being a sadist and a BDSM practitioner, teaching all of this stuff to people? And I say there's no conflict in my spiritual path, which is Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, and my leather. And as a matter of fact, in October I will be ordained as a Buddhist monk. And you won't see me so much in leather. You'll see me in what I call my Buddha jammies. And that's why the hair is going and the facial hair is going as well. It's my spiritual path, and it's a way for me to work with the leather community who is very interested in connecting their sexuality with their spirituality. And that's what I do today. I'm president and CEO of Butchmanns Incorporated. It's an organization that started in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's a 501c3 that's responsible and are for the cessation of suffering for people who have been discriminated against because of who they are, who they love, and how they play. And that's what we do. We run one of the largest leather conferences in the United States called Southwest Leather Conference. It's in Phoenix, Arizona in January. I encourage any of you to come. Again, not shades of gray. We are the parent company of MAST International, Masters and Slaves Together. We are the owners and curators of the leather quilt, which is going all around the country and will soon be deposited in the Leather Archives and Museum. And we also run weekend retreats called Butchmanns Experiences, which is for people to understand and come and learn about power exchange relationships and what does it really mean. Are you somebody who wants to be obedient, or are you somebody who wants to be responsible? And when you put those 2 things together, from my experience, it's a wonderful life. So thank you very much for allowing me to tell you my story. I certainly appreciate it.